We had our boycott blackout, but Donald Trump has a blackout of his own. Check this out.
Remember during the campaign when Trump claimed that immigrants were taking black jobs?
They're taking black jobs.
Well, Trump just fired Air Force General C.Q. Brown, the highest-ranking black person in the military, and replaced him with a lower-ranking white guy. If you haven't noticed, Trump is the one who's taking black jobs. Trump fired Gwen Wilcox, the chair of the National Labor Relations Board, who was the first black woman board member. He replaced Lloyd Austin, the black Secretary of Defense, with an unqualified white Fox News host. He replaced Michael Regan, the black EPA administrator, with an anti-environment white guy who immediately ended EPA's Justice 40 program that funded black communities. And he's firing thousands of federal government workers with a disproportionate impact on black people. At the education department, where nearly 30% of employees are black, 60 of the 74 workers who have been let go are black. At the Department of Health and Human Services, where 1,300 people were laid off, 20% of the staff was black. At the Veterans Affairs Department, which lost 1,000 employees, 24% of the staff was black. Trump officials aren't even hiding their racist motives. White men must be in charge of everything, they say. Ever since Truman desegregated the armed forces in 1948 and Kennedy and Johnson banned racial discrimination in the federal workforce in the 1960s, the military and federal government were the few places where black people could get a good job in an era of racial discrimination. My father served in the military, and my mom and grandmother both worked for the federal government for decades, which allowed my family to move into the middle class when I was a child. That's why black people make up 13.7% of the U.S. population, but account for nearly 19% of federal workers. And that's why Washington, D.C., which used to be called Chocolate City before gentrification, once had the highest median income for black people of any city in the country. But last month, Trump rescinded the anti-discrimination rules that have been in place since the 1960s, so he could fire black people at will. We are witnessing the most sweeping presidential attack on black workers since Woodrow Wilson segregated the federal workforce in 1913. Adam Serwer at The Atlantic calls it the Great Resegregation. The reason why Trump is attacking the federal workforce is precisely because it is often more meritocratic and therefore more integrated than the private sector, says Serwer. To get a job in the federal civil service, you have to meet the posted qualifications. But in the private sector, especially in building trades, a lot of people get jobs through their social networks, according to political scientist Ashley Giardino. Trump purposely misuses DEI as a synonym for unqualified black people, but he hires the most unqualified white people to run the Pentagon,
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years.
transportation, education, and HHS. And he allowed unqualified teenage boys to rummage through your personal information in government databases. But for young black people who are developing skills to enter the workforce, the Trump administration just halted a federal scholarship program for HBCU students. All this has happened since January, yet the East Room black people are still grinning and spinning for the white man in chief in the White House.